Hey guys, Eli here. Going live, and I have my friend Ruben here with me. So, kind of just a little bit of a backstory before we get started with his story. Is I first heard Ruben's story at National Convention in February. So it was earlier this month. And now I'm out here in Conklin Business Seminar and met Ruben. I'm like, hey, you know what? I think his story needs to be shared because there's a lot of people that probably deal with similar stuff to what he dealt with. Maybe not in the same way, but in a lot of ways we all deal with our own stuff that we struggle with. And I think a lot of people, probably more people than want to admit it, usually struggle with stuff more than they want to admit it. Anyways, so I'm going to let Ruben share his story and how God kept him alive and brought him to where he's at today. So, Ruben, go ahead and kind of share your background a little bit.
Well, thanks a lot, Eli, for asking me to be part of this conversation. And it's an honor and a privilege. And at this point, I try not to take any day for granted that I get today being above ground, because the reality of the story is me and Eli met through commercial roofing and through Conklin Business. And I always used to make the joke that in order to be a roofer, Eli, to qualify, you almost need to be a drug addict or an alcoholic. And the reality of the story is alcohol is a big part of my story. I'll just go a little bit of my journey. I was born in upstate New York in 1994. We moved to Carrollton, Ohio. I was born in upstate New York in 1990. We moved to Carrollton, Ohio in 94. I came from a large family, and I was number 5 out of 12 children. 2 of them passed away now. And then coming from a large family like that, you normally don't become close with all your siblings, but you become very close with 1 or 2 of them. And that was my story. I had one brother that I was very close with, and we had a rough upbringing. And I remember at a young age, my dad always struggled financially. Eli, he was always and because of the financial struggle, I feel that it caused him to not always respond in a positive way. And through that, it had the ability to make us feel less than at times. And I believe that's where my story kind of started. Physical abuse, what I call physical abuse, was a very common thing in our household. And because of that, I became a very good liar at a young age. I had no problem lying about something so one of my other siblings would get the beating instead of me. And now knowing about addictive personalities and everything goes along with that, I was probably an addict at a young age and just didn't have a substance yet. So with us being Amish and not having power, what it all started with is we had a neighbor that allowed us to keep our meat at his freezer at his house, and he also had a kegerator in his garage. And what happened was Mom would send me up there to get meat, and what Ruben thought he should do is get a drink while he was there. And of course, Mom never had a problem like get us to go get meat. I love going to get meat, and that started at an age of 14 years old. That I started going up there, and I would pour a drink, and then I would pour a couple. And then as I became older, at 16, I lost all my self-respect and started the party scene of life, and just started partying. And back then I thought it was cool to drink. I liked the way it made me feel, and I can't say I ever liked being drunk. I liked the way it gave me a buzz. I liked the way that you just felt that high. And not realizing that it was going to turn into a real problem for me. So I started dating my wife when I was 16 years old. She's an amazing person. And at the age of 19, I got married to get out of the house I lived in. I bought a property. Me and my wife got married. We had these amazing plans, and a year into our marriage, we had our first daughter, which was the first probably real miracle I experienced in my life. And I kept on saying that when I have kids, I want to love them differently, and I felt I was loved. I want to be able to give them a hug and express my love for them rather than always being negative comments and having a temper. But as I became older, I wasn't able to let go of some of that resentments and stuff I had toward my dad and things that had just built up over the years. And I also didn't know how to explain it to anybody, how I felt. But a six-pack would numb it. And then I could go home and be that dad that I wanted my dad to be. And I could be that, happy, joyous, and free dad that was medicated at the time. And that's all fine and dandy. I started a business at a young age, so I added stress to that whole mix. And self-pity, like nobody understood me. Nobody understood all these business pains. Nobody understands, what I'm going through. And then in 2015, I was still young. I was doing fairly well. So there's a lot of things that went wrong there. You give somebody that drinks money, and then they think they have power. And then God allows things to happen to let it go backwards, to show you that you are not in control, to show you that you cannot control what He has in plan for us. And then I got into a lawsuit that actually, well, it wasn't a lawsuit at that point. I was building a new home for a friend of the family, and I lost a bunch of money. I should have went bankrupt through it. But somehow I managed to keep everything upright. And during that time, all this stuff kept on boxing up. And I couldn't even share it with my wife, what I was really feeling. And I just thought it was all these curses that were formed against me, that they were coming, and I was never going to be successful. I was always going to be that worthless person that I always was told I was going to be. And then moving forward to 2018, a friend of the family introduced me to Conklin. And I came to Conklin Business Seminar. I loved the structure of it. I loved what they believed in. And I got into commercial roofing. In 2019, my brother that I was very close with got cancer and passed away. And that's when I really thought God was against me. I just told myself that nobody will ever understand, and I'll never understand, why God has a weapon against me. At the time, today I realized it was all that self-pity boiling up inside of me, and I was feeling sorry for myself, and poor me, and poor this, and poor that. And then things escalated. We got into commercial roofing, and we had clients. Things were going good. And I continuously got more aggressively with my drinking. And it was then easy for me to say, I don't have to call that client back. I don't have to respond to that person. It caused me to be totally irresponsible with my day-to-day operations, and therefore led to me being not communicative with my customers and causing relationships to go bad. And then in the spring of 2023, on the week of March 26th, in a short form, I had a mental breakdown. My debt had went over $1 million in debt. We had amazing things happening, but I was so full in self-doubt, self-pity, and self-respect, and poor me. I have 3 wonderful kids, an amazing wife. But on the week of March 26th, I had a mental breakdown, and I realized that alcohol wasn't numbing my problems anymore. And now this was after going a long time with drinking a case of beer a day just to cope, just to be able to go with life. And what happened when it didn't numb anymore, I started a downward spiral, and my life had become totally unmanageable. So my wife stepped into, she knew that something wasn't right, and she was a big enabler in my drinking career, and not even realizing, she thought drinking was the problem, and that was just something I did. She didn't realize that I was the problem, and drinking is what I used to medicate. So she enabled. I never hid my drinking from my family because I didn't think it was a problem. So Then we, on a Thursday morning, my wife was headed to the office to try to mend some fences that I had ruined through my drinking. And she took the kids to the babysitter. It was a rainy day, and my life had just come to a point where I thought, why still live? And my thinking just totally went out of control. And then I kind of went borderline agnostic, where I'm like, if there really is a God, why did he take my brother at 31 years old? If there really is a God, why is he allowing me to feel the way I feel? And if there really is a God, why does nobody understand me? But all those things, if you really look at it, it's all self-pity. It was all about me, 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 me. And I decided that if there really was a God and this was the life that I'm supposed to live, why live it? So I reached up above my gun cabinet. I'm not proud of this, but this is what happened. And I had a Glock 40, and I racked it, and I put a shell in the chamber, and I put it up against my head, and I pled with God one more time. If I had purpose, allow something to happen, allow something to intervene. If I still have anything left in this life worth living for, allow a sign to come. And as I squeezed against that trigger, somebody knocked on my door. And I was forced to make a decision to either continue squeezing the trigger or go answer the door. And I'm thankful for that moment today. I didn't understand it back then. But I'm thankful for that moment today, because as soon as that happened and I started walking toward the door, my wife and kids flashed in front of me, and it became so transparent of how selfish I was about to be. And I went and opened the door, and there was a guy standing there by the name of Doug. Doug doesn't know I have a problem. I know a little bit of Doug, but I don't know him very well. His wife knew my wife a little bit. Doug was looking for property to hunt, and I had a little bit of property. And I said, well, I don't hunt anymore, but if you want to come in out of the rain after the rain stops, we'll go walk my property, and you can hunt here if you want to. So he comes in and sits at my kitchen table. In the meantime, in my bedroom, which was one room over, on the nightstand, there was a loaded gun with the safety off. And Doug sat there and he poured into my soul for 2.5 hours. He said some things that just made total sense to me. And he gave me a little bit of hope, and he really didn't even know what he was doing. Today we realized that it was a godsend. I didn't back then. So Doug left, never walked the property. To this day he hasn't. I still own the property. And I called my wife and I said, you need to come home from the office. I need to share a few things with you. I need to be open. And it was the first time in my married life and in my whole life that I was truly able to share with somebody what really was on my mind. And we both admitted that my thinking was really messed up, and it shouldn't have been that way. And we agreed that we didn't know if drinking was going to eliminate all my problems, but we knew that it's not going to hurt to look into that. I didn't know that it had such a physical, mental, and spiritual attachment to me. So the following Monday night, I went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and in the middle of that meeting, there was another business owner sharing his story. I was like, wow, he knows exactly how I feel. He knows exactly what I've been through. He knows exactly, he was sharing my story, and I couldn't believe it, because for all these years I sat there thinking I was the only person that went through this particular struggle in my life. So later that night I had a moment where I just broke down and I started sobbing. And I remember this weight getting lifted off of my shoulders, and it left. And I never had an obsession to drink after that. The guy, that business owner that then shared his story, became a very pivotal moment in my life. He took me through very important step-by-step through life to deal with different emotions and deal with self pity and deal with the anger and just live to be a human being. Today, I am thankful for all those moments I went through, Eli, because it's given me the idea to or given me the availability to look into other people's lives and say it's okay to struggle. Um, it gave me and my wife the opportunity to go together as a couple and work through a horrible struggle in our life and get out the other side stronger than we ever were before. Today, I have a hope and a dream that anybody that struggles with any type of addiction, whether it's or mental or physical, uh, that they have the ability to do a little bit of inventory on themselves and say, I could use a little bit of help. And anybody for sure that has a problem with alcohol, I hope they have the ability, if they can't share with a family member or anybody else. Alcoholics Anonymous is in every city in America. And you can Google an AA meeting in your area. And I would like to think that you might go and get the same experience I did. I thank God for alcohol today because alcohol took me to my bottom. My bottom took me to AA, and AA took me back to God. They showed me a way to live life, to replace my medication and fill it with the Holy Spirit and allow God to be part of my day-to-day operations. Today I know it's okay to struggle and ask God for help. It's okay to share my struggle with people. And I just really hope that anybody that's watching this, that they can get the same thing. There's so many things that have happened that were God moments. One thing I want to share was when that guy knocked on my door, I didn't really know if I was supposed to share that with anybody. It's just the mixed emotions at the time and everything. Like, it's a God moment, but you didn't know to what extent that was going to be part of your everyday life. 6 weeks later, the following week, Doug found out that I started going to Alcoholics Anonymous, and he called me, and he said, hey, I just wanted you to know that I have a sobriety date as well, and he had like 12 or 13 years or 17 years or something of sobriety, and we became good friends through that, so he was able to support me on that side. 6 weeks later, Doug called me, and he was pretty down on his luck. He lost his job. And I felt it upon my heart that day to share with him where I was at the day he knocked on my door, and Doug started crying. He said, I stopped 3 times on my way to your house to turn around and go back home, and something told me to keep on going. So, in a short sense, I believe that everybody has purpose. Sometimes we don't find it in the way we think. I would have never dreamt that I was going to find my purpose in life by holding a gun to my head. But everybody has value, no matter where you're at in life. Today I try to add value to every person, to just give somebody a breath of fresh air and hope. Life is beautiful. And it's not easy, but it's beautiful. We have the choice whether we want to follow what he has planned for us, or whether we want to live in self-pity and anger or in alcoholism or in the active addiction. My life is beautiful today. I thank God every day that I get to share my story, that I get to just do what I do because I believe everybody has purpose. So hopefully that gives everybody that's watching this a little bit of insight or a little bit, but that's my story in a nutshell, and here's what I'll tell you. If there's hope and purpose for me, there's hope and purpose for anyone. So back to you, Eli.
Well, there you have it. God works in crazy, wonderful ways, and saved Ruben's life. But you know what? The same thing is available for you if you're struggling with an addiction, whether it's alcohol, whether it's porn, whatever it might be. There's actually freedom there for you as well. You just gotta go get it. So anyways, y'all have a blessed day, and we'll see y'all later.